Look who finally made their attorney sweat through a $900 suit. Welcome back, you beautiful, meticulous, paper-trailing legends. Lynn, look at how the balance of power shifted. The moment truth stopped hiding in silence and began speaking through evidence. This was the moment everything changed. What they once dismissed as harmless details had quietly transformed into undeniable proof. Every saved message, every preserved conversation became a thread in a larger fabric they could no longer tear apart. They had believed your quietness meant surrender. They assumed your distance meant defeat. They convinced themselves that time would erase their actions and bury the truth beneath distraction and denial. But while they were busy rewriting their version of events, you were preserving reality exactly as it happened. You were patient when patience felt unbearable. You were observant when observation required emotional restraint. And now everything they ignored had returned, not as memory, but as documented fact. Behind closed doors, in spaces where confidence once protected them, the atmosphere began to change. Confidence gave way to unease. Assurance gave way to uncertainty. The person they relied on for protection, someone trained to evaluate facts without emotion, began reviewing what you had assembled. One by one, the pieces formed a timeline that could not be easily questioned. Each message confirmed intent. Each contradiction revealed itself clearly when placed beside the truth. What once seemed small became significant. What once seemed forgettable became permanent. There was no dramatic outburst, no sudden explosion, just a quiet realization that the situation was no longer under their control. Because facts, when preserved carefully, do not weaken with time. They grow stronger. What made this moment powerful was not revenge. It was discipline. While they underestimated your awareness, you were strengthening your position. While they relied on assumption, you relied on documentation. They believed emotion would cloud your judgment. Instead, emotion sharpened your focus. You chose not to react impulsively. You chose not to argue endlessly. You chose to observe, record, and protect the truth without announcing your intentions. And in doing so, you created something far more powerful than anger. You created clarity. Because clarity does not shout. It stands quietly and lets reality speak for itself. They had misunderstood silence. They thought silence meant weakness, when in reality it was preparation. They thought your restraint meant fear, when it was actually strategy. They thought walking away meant you had nothing left, when in truth you were simply removing yourself from distraction. You were not trying to destroy anyone. You were protecting yourself from being erased, misrepresented, or dismissed. You understood something they did not. Truth does not need volume. It needs preservation. And preservation requires patience, discipline, and emotional strength. Most people never develop. Blend. As the weight of what you had gathered became impossible to ignore, the illusion they had built around themselves began to crack. Not because of intimidation, but because of reality. Reality has a way of removing comfort when comfort is built on distortion. Suddenly, avoidance was no longer an option. Delay was no longer protection. The consequences they never imagined began to feel possible. And in that moment, something rare happened. The narrative shifted. The person who once believed they had complete control now faced the truth they could not reshape. Mains. What makes this transformation meaningful is not the discomfort of others, but the restoration of balance. You did not create falsehoods. You did not manipulate events. You simply refused to let truth disappear. While others erased, you preserved. While others denied, you documented. While others relied on confidence alone, you relied on facts. And facts, when organized and protected, become impossible to dismiss. They do not depend on emotion. They do not depend on persuasion. They exist independently, waiting for the moment they are needed. Danced. This moment was never about humiliation. It was about accountability. Accountability is uncomfortable for those who never expected to face it. It forces reflection. It forces recognition. It forces acknowledgement. And while accountability may feel like defeat to some, it is actually the beginning of resolution. Because resolution cannot exist where truth is buried. It can only exist where truth is acknowledged openly and honestly. Plained, you understood this from the beginning. You did not act out of impulse. You acted out of principle. Principle gave you patience. Principle gave you clarity. Principle gave you the ability to endure uncertainty without abandoning your commitment to the truth. And now everything you protected had become visible, not exaggerated, not distorted. In the end, the most powerful realization did not belong to them. It belonged to you. You discovered your own strength. You discovered your discipline. You discovered your ability to remain steady when others expected you to break. You learned that protecting the truth also protects you. You learned that silence can be strength when it is guided by purpose. You learned that patience is not passive. It is active preparation for what lies ahead. True power does not announce itself through noise, anger, or desperate attempts to be noticed. It does not depend on threats or emotional reactions to prove its existence. Real power is quiet. It is the calm certainty that comes from knowing the truth has been preserved so completely that it no longer depends on approval or persuasion. It is the stillness of stepping back and allowing reality to unfold on its own, not guided by your voice, but guided by the clear and undeniable record of what has already taken place. Power is not forcing accountability. It is allowing accountability to emerge naturally, supported by facts that remain consistent and clear. Blamed. What you built was not created overnight. It was not driven by suspicion, but by awareness that grew slowly over time. You began to notice small inconsistencies. At first, they were easy to overlook. Words that shifted depending on who was listening. Promises that quietly faded when they were no longer convenient. Events that were later described differently from how they truly occurred. You were not searching for conflict. You were searching for clarity, and clarity required preservation. So, you began to keep records, not from fear, but from respect for the truth. You saved conversations, not to harm anyone, but to protect yourself from confusion and uncertainty. You preserved messages, not to gain control, but to maintain your connection to reality. You understood that memory can fade, but facts that are preserved remain steady. Believed. This process required emotional strength that many people never develop. It required restraint when reacting would have been easier. It required patience when answers did not come quickly. It required discipline to remain calm while witnessing behavior that tested your trust and emotional balance. Moment by moment, piece by piece, you created a timeline grounded in facts rather than emotion. And as that timeline grew, it became more than reassurance. It became confirmation. Confirmation that your experiences were real. Confirmation that your perception remained clear. Confirmation that truth, once preserved, does not need constant defense. Stands on its own. What makes this moment meaningful is not the discomfort of others, but the shift in awareness that took place. Assumptions that once seemed secure began to weaken. Time did not erase what happened. Distance did not remove what was real. When facts are preserved, they do not depend on interpretation alone. They become steady reference points. And when those points are seen clearly, uncertainty fades. There is a quiet realization that happens when someone understands they must face the reality of their own actions. It is not loud. It is not dramatic. It is internal. It is the understanding that the story they once relied on no longer provides protection. This moment does not belong to anger. It belongs to truth. Because truth does not exist to harm. It exists to restore balance and clarity. What you carried during this time was not weakness. It was endurance. You held the emotional weight of uncertainty while maintaining the discipline to protect yourself. You resisted reacting impulsively. You chose observation over chaos. You chose preparation over reaction. And through that choice, you created stability in a situation that once felt unstable. They did not expect that. They believed emotional pressure would weaken you. They believed distance would disconnect you. They believed silence meant surrender. But your silence was not surrender. It was focus. It gave you the space to understand clearly without distraction. While others relied only on confidence, you relied on reality. And reality, when preserved, becomes stronger over time, balanced. But the most important transformation did not happen outside of you. It happened within you. You discovered your ability to remain calm under pressure. You discovered your ability to protect yourself while keeping your integrity intact. You discovered that truth, when respected and preserved, becomes its own form of protection, a land. You no longer needed to convince anyone. You no longer needed to argue. You no longer needed to explain plans, because what is real does not require force to remain real. It simply remains. They believed your stillness meant collapse, when in reality it was construction. They mistook your quiet withdrawal for weakness, never realizing that you were preserving something far more powerful than anger. While they assumed you were fading, you were organizing clarity. While they convinced themselves you had nothing left, you were carefully protecting every detail that proved otherwise. What they dismissed as emotional distance was actually discipline. You were not reacting impulsively. You were preparing intelligently. And now, the very systems they trusted to protect them had begun revealing what they never expected. The truth they thought they could outpace had already been preserved beyond their control. The moment accountability becomes unavoidable, the response changes. Words are no longer casual. Every sentence becomes deliberate, measured, and cautious. What once would have been denied outright now requires careful acknowledgement. Any formal apology that emerges from such a moment will not come from spontaneous emotion, but from necessity. It will be shaped with precision, reviewed for accuracy, and delivered with intention. Even if the language appears restrained, its meaning will carry weight, because behind every carefully chosen word is the quiet recognition of something undeniable. The facts exist, and they cannot be erased. The apology may not carry the emotion you once hoped for, but it carries something more permanent: recognition of truth. Plind. What makes this moment significant is not the apology itself, but what it represents. It represents a shift in reality. For a long time, they controlled the narrative. They shaped perceptions, influenced opinions, and created doubt where clarity should have existed. They relied on assumption and confidence, believing their version of events would remain unquestioned. And for a time, it may have worked. Some people may have accepted their story without examining it. Some may have misunderstood you. Some may have quietly stepped away, unsure of what to believe. But truth does not disappear simply because it is ignored. It waits. It remains intact until the moment it is finally seen. Now, that moment has arrived. The same facts they once dismissed now stand independently, requiring no defense from you. The truth no longer depends on your voice to exist. It has its own presence. It has its own stability. And with that stability comes a shift, not just in how others see the situation, but in how you see yourself. The uncertainty that once weighed on your mind begins to dissolve. The questions that once circled endlessly begin to quiet. You no longer need reassurance from anyone else, because reality itself has provided confirmation. What you experienced was real. What you remembered was accurate. What you protected was meaningful. Band, this is where true validation exists, not in forcing anyone to agree with you, but in knowing you never abandoned yourself. You trusted your perception enough to preserve it. You trusted your instincts enough to protect the truth, even when doing so required patience and emotional strength. That kind of discipline is rare. It requires resisting the urge to react immediately. It requires believing that clarity will eventually emerge without forcing it. And now, that clarity has emerged on its own. And what happens next is not about revenge or emotional victory. It is about resolution. Resolution does not require reconciliation. It does not require forgiveness before you are ready. It does not require reopening doors you chose to close. It simply requires acknowledgement. Once acknowledgement exists, you are no longer carrying the burden of being misunderstood. The weight shifts away from you and returns to where it belongs, with the reality of what actually happened. Blend, the ripple effect of truth is quiet but powerful. It changes how people reflect. It changes how events are remembered. It changes how you remember yourself. You are no longer the person searching for answers. You are the person who preserved them. You are no longer standing in uncertainty. You are standing in confirmation. Not because you forced it, but because you allowed truth the time and space it needed to reveal itself. And perhaps the most important part of all is this: you are free. Free from needing their acknowledgement to validate your experience. Free from needing their understanding to feel whole. Free from the confusion that once clouded your peace. The apology, whether spoken or written, is not the source of your strength. Your strength came from protecting yourself long before that moment ever arrived. Lane, there comes a moment when perception begins to shift, not because you forced it, but because reality can no longer be ignored. The people who once accepted a distorted version of events now sit quietly with their own thoughts, reflecting on what they misunderstood. Begins to replace certainty. Some people may begin to reconsider what they believed or what they understood before. Some may reflect quietly and see things differently over time. Others may remain silent, unsure of what to say or how to process it. But the most important change is not happening around you. It is happening within you. You are no longer waiting for others to confirm what you experienced. You are no longer trying to explain yourself to those who did not understand. You are simply standing in your own quiet clarity, grounded in what you know to be real. The journey was not easy. It required patience during moments when it would have been easier to let go and move on without thinking deeply about it. It required emotional balance when situations felt unclear. It required trust in yourself when doubt appeared. But you remained steady. You stayed aware. You stayed committed to maintaining your clarity. Over time, that commitment became your foundation. Tumblest. You do not need to carry frustration forward. You do not need to revisit what has already passed. What remains now is your ability to move ahead with a clearer perspective. You move forward with greater understanding, not hardened, but more experienced. Not driven by fear, but guided by awareness. You no longer depend only on words or expectations. You rely on your observation, your understanding, and your ability to remain steady when needed. The most meaningful part of this experience is not whether others eventually understood. It is that you stayed true to your own awareness throughout the process. You remained aligned with yourself. You remained grounded, and that gave you something lasting, a sense of peace that does not depend on anyone else's response or acknowledgement. People may reflect on events in their own way. They may think about it privately. They may come to their own conclusions over time. But you no longer need to be part of that process. Your role was to remain steady, to learn, and to move forward without losing your sense of self. Belias. Now you carry something simple but important. You carry confidence in your own perception. Confidence in your ability to remain calm. Confidence in your ability to handle uncertainty with balance. This confidence may not always be visible, but it will guide your decisions moving forward. Bland. You did not move through this by force. You moved through it by staying grounded and maintaining your clarity. And in the end, that quiet consistency became both your protection and your freedom.